Hey friends, buckle up, because I'm about to take you on a wild ride through a night in Austin that still has my heart racing. Picture a dimly lit bar, the kind where the air buzzes with laughter, clinking glasses, and the low thrum of live music. The warmth of his touch lingered at my lower back, steady and undeniable, pulling me into the moment like a magnet. Jake's presence was impossible to ignore. Close, electric, like a storm about to break. His voice, smooth as aged whiskey, hit me before I even saw him, a stranger's tone that somehow felt like it belonged. My heart skipped, but I didn't pull away. I exhaled, tossing a quick glance over my shoulder, just enough to let him know I felt him, before turning back to my drink with a subtle smile. Then, with a flick of my wrist, I motioned him closer. No words, just a quiet confidence that said, "Come find out what this is." Before we dive deeper, do me a quick favor. Smash that like button and hit subscribe. It takes 2 seconds and helps keep these stories coming. Now let's get lost in this night. The bar's mirror caught my reflection. Dark eyes sparkling with mischief, lips parted in a knowing smile, and a dress that did exactly what I needed. It hugged my curves like a second skin, dipping low enough to turn heads but leaving just enough to the imagination. Perfect. Somewhere in the back of my mind, the night was already unfolding. His hands finding my waist, my back pressed against the cool brick wall, his breath warm against my neck. The heat between us simmered, building slow but unstoppable, like a fire catching kindling. The music, a sultry mix of guitars and drums, faded to a distant pulse, drowned out by his low voice and the way he filled the space around me, like he owned it. A glass slammed on the bar, jolting me back to reality. I swirled the last sip of my drink, the ice long melted, and set it down with a deep breath. The night hadn't even hit its stride, but I was already losing myself in it. 2 days. That's all I had before Jake would be out of reach. Promised to someone else before this fleeting chance slipped through my fingers like sand, my fingertips traced to the rim of my glass, slow and deliberate, as I leaned against the bar, the wood cool under my palms. Across the room there he was, Jake, standing by a high-top table, looking like he'd stepped out of a dream. He was relaxed, effortless, his laugh carrying over the crowd like it was meant just for me. His tie was gone, his shirt unbuttoned at the top, revealing a glimpse of tanned skin that made my pulse quicken. One hand cradled a drink, the other raked through his dark hair as he talked, animated and carefree. I knew that hand, how it steadied me when we danced too close at a friend's wedding, how it caught my arm when I tripped on a cracked sidewalk, how it pulled me through a crowded festival last summer. Moments that felt innocent, until they weren't. I shifted, feeling the fabric of my dress pull tight against my hips, the silk catching the bar's soft lights. He hadn't noticed me yet, too caught up in his conversation. Fine. If he wasn't going to look, I'd make sure he had no choice. I grabbed my drink, the glass cool against my fingers, and started through the crowd. Each step was deliberate, my heels clicking softly on the hardwood floor, the bass vibrating through my chest like a second heartbeat. Bodies swayed around me, the heat of the room pressing close, thick with the scent of whiskey and perfume. Someone murmured something low as I passed, a hand brushing my back, but I barely registered it. My focus was singular, locked on him. I reached Jake just as he turned, and when his eyes finally landed on me, I saw it. That spark, like a match striking flint. I leaned in, close enough for him to feel the warmth of my breath, my fingers grazing his wrist, light but intentional. "Ready for a night you'll never forget, Jake?" I teased, my voice low, playful. He smirked, his eyes narrowing like he was waiting for the punchline. "A night I'll never forget. Mia, that's a bold claim." I tilted my head, my smile lingering as I twirled the straw in my drink. "I don't make claims, I make guarantees." He laughed, A deep, warm sound that sent a shiver through me, but he didn't step back. "You always this bold, or is tonight special?" "Tonight's special," I said, leaning closer, his cologne, a mix of cedar and spice mingling with the whiskey on his breath. "For you, at least." His eyes flickered, weighing me, a mix of curiosity and something hotter. "And what does that make you?" "Trouble," I said, letting the word hang between us, daring him to take the bait. He paused, just a moment too long, then shook his head with a grin that said he was already in too deep. "You didn't used to flirt like this, Mia. Maybe I didn't have a reason to." I stepped closer, my lips brushing near his ear, my voice barely a whisper. "Tell me you haven't thought about it." His hand twitched at his side, but he didn't touch me. Not yet. "I shouldn't," he said, his voice low, almost a growl, but he didn't move away. The air between us crackled, charged with years of unspoken tension. I kissed him, slow at first, teasing, then deeper, pouring everything into it, every glance, every almost, every what if. His hesitation lasted half a heartbeat before he kissed me back, his hands finding my waist, gripping me like he'd been holding back forever. The crowd's cheers and chatter faded to a distant hum as I took his wrist, leading him through the chaos. A few voices called out, half laughing, half cheering, but they were just noise. I pushed open a heavy wooden door, pulling him into a quiet room, a back lounge, dimly lit, with plush couches and a faint scent of leather. The lock clicked shut, and the world outside disappeared. Before I could catch my breath, he was there, his hands firm, pressing me back until my legs hit the edge of a low table. A shiver ran through me as I sank onto it, a laugh spilling out as he hovered above, his eyes dark with intent. "You planned this, didn't you?" he teased, his voice warm against my skin. "You're only figuring that out now?" I whispered, my fingers already at his belt, tugging gently. His smirk told me he knew exactly what this was, but the way his breath hitched said he was just as caught up as I was. This was it. Years of stolen glances, of moments that lingered too long, finally spilling over. No more waiting. I pulled him closer, our lips meeting again, deeper now, as my hands moved with purpose, easing his belt loose, the fabric of his shirt shifting under my touch. His breath caught, his hands sliding to the straps of my dress, gently tugging them down, revealing more with every inch. The silk pooled at my waist, and I leaned back, tracing the lines of his body, feeling the way his muscles tensed under my fingertips. "Let me," I murmured, my voice light but sure. His fingers twitched, his body reacting as my breath skimmed his skin, every touch deliberate, building the heat between us like a slow burning fuse. His breathing grew uneven, his fingers weaving through my hair, guiding my gaze to his. "Come here," he said, his voice soft but urgent. I didn't hesitate, letting him pull me closer, his presence grounding me as the room faded away. His hands steadied me, keeping me close, like he'd been waiting for this as long as I had. I let go of the last of my doubts, sinking into the moment, our rhythm effortless, like we'd always been meant for this. Every touch sent a spark through me, natural and unspoken, pulling us deeper into the night. The air was thick, charged with the scent of his cologne, and the faint hum of music seeping through the walls. I could feel the weight of the moment, years of almost collapsing into now. My hands explored, memorizing the warmth of his skin, the way his body responded to every touch. His fingers traced my spine, slow and intentional, like he was mapping every inch of me. The tension built, wrapping around us until it felt like the room itself was holding its breath. Then a voice broke through, smooth, unfamiliar, cutting through the haze. "Didn't expect a show tonight." I felt their presence before I saw them, a shadow at the edge of the room, but I didn't stop. I exhaled, glancing just enough to acknowledge them. A stranger, leaning against the doorframe, eyes glinting with amusement. I turned away, letting the moment stretch, my focus still on Jake. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, I raised a hand, 2 fingers curling in a silent invitation. No words, just certainty. A pause, then movement. Another presence closing in, their warmth undeniable. A hand grazed my hip, light at first, then bolder, tracing the curve of my back. The air thickened, charged with anticipation, as another touch joined, skimming my arm, lingering at my thigh. I let it happen. The soft slide of fabric giving way, the moment unraveling slowly, deliberately. Another figure moved closer, kneeling at the edge of the table, their warmth hovering, waiting. I turned toward them, an understanding passing between us, no words needed. The rhythm never broke. Jake's hands stayed steady, grounding me while new touches wove into the moment. Light. Exploratory but certain, a hand wove into my hair, not pulling, just lingering, savoring. Another brushed my shoulder, warm and deliberate, the weight of their presence wrapping around me from all sides. I stayed at the center, in control, my body moving with instinct, drawing them closer. The room buzzed, alive with the sound of breaths aligning, bodies shifting in sync. I sank deeper, yielding to the heat pressing in, every touch seamless, unhurried. The stranger's fingers traced my arm, slow and deliberate, while Jake's hand steadied my waist, his breath warm against my ear. Another presence made itself known, a light touch gliding over my thigh, sending a shiver through me. I exhaled, steady, letting the warmth close in, the shift subtle but undeniable. Anticipation lingered, curiosity thick in the air, waiting to be answered. My hands moved freely, exploring, discovering new paths. I traced the stranger's jaw, feeling the faint stubble under my fingertips, their breath catching at the touch. Another moment, my fingers brushed Jake's chest, feeling the tension pull tight as he leaned closer. Every movement was met with quiet reactions, sharp inhales, slow exhales, a murmur of approval that sent a thrill through me. The space around us hummed, charged with the moment stretching deeper. The stranger shifted closer, their warmth pressing in, a quiet murmur near my ear. Amused, knowing. "You're trouble, aren't you?" they said, their voice blending with the night's heat. I smiled, tilting my head just enough to catch their gaze. "Only the good kind," I said, my voice light, teasing. They chuckled, their hand lingering at my waist, testing, daring. I nodded, a subtle invitation, and they stayed. Time blurred, each moment melting into the next, every shift sending a pulse through me. The air grew heavy, filled with the sound of breaths sinking, bodies moving in perfect harmony. Jake's fingers glided along my spine, guiding me closer, while the stranger's touch traced my arm, their presence steady and warm. I braced myself, hands finding Jake's chest, feeling the tension beneath, drawing him deeper into the moment. The tension built, pulling us tighter, until it unraveled in a slow, overwhelming wave, washing over me, leaving me breathless. The sensation lingered, wrapping around me like a warm tide, stretching the moment into something endless. I'd wanted this for so long, Jake, this night, this feeling, and it was more than I'd ever imagined. The stranger's presence, their quiet intensity, only added to it, like a note I hadn't known the song needed. As we caught our breath, the room settled, the hum of the bar outside creeping back in. Jake leaned back, his eyes still locked on mine, a grin tugging at his lips. "You're something else, Mia," he said, his voice rough but warm. I laughed, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "Took you long enough to figure that out." The stranger shifted, their hand lingering on my shoulder for a moment, before they stepped back, a knowing smile in their eyes. "Hell of a night," they said before slipping out, leaving just me and Jake in the quiet. I looked at him, the weight of years between us settling in the air. "So," I said, my voice soft but steady, "what now?" He didn't answer right away, just watched me like he was a puzzle he was finally starting to solve. And in that moment, I knew, whatever came next, we'd already changed everything. So here's the real question for you. If you had a friend like that, someone who always felt just a little too close, would you make the first move or wait for them to? Have you ever had a friendship where one moment could have flipped the script entirely? Would you take the chance or walk away? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm dying to hear your stories.
Thank you for listening. Please share your thoughts, like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe for more.